Hello, I'm Kajal Devani, Director of Science and Technology at the Canadian Angus Association. This year, we will be introducing EPDs for some new traits, and today I'm excited to tell you about the new claw set and foot angle EPDs. Feet and leg structure are identified by members and commercial producers as priorities for within their own herds. We also know from conversations with members and producers that the industry was seeing issues with these traits, and we want to ensure that Canadian Angus members always have the tools necessary to address issues and maintain their competitive advantage. Foot scores, specifically claw set and foot angle, are now part of our Angus One genetic evaluations, which are done by AGI in partnership with the American Angus Association. The Canadian Angus is also working on developing a genetic evaluation for leg structure. Here's a quick video from Kelly Rotalick at AGI to introduce phenotyping for claw set and foot angle.
So the foot scoring system was developed in early 2014 as a way for producers to basically collect scores on their cattle for two areas that they really brought up to us as a problem they were seeing out in the field. It's foot angle and claw set. So the foot angle is really going to be that angle of the pastern to the ground. You're really trying to see, how soft is that animal on their pastern, how long are their toes, and how much heel is underneath that particular animal. Whereas our claw set foot score is going to be basically how symmetrical and straight are those toes coming out of that hoof. Both of them have a 1 through 9 scoring system where 5 is going to be ideal. An ideal foot score for claw set is going to be 2 toes that are straight and symmetrical. If we move up the scale to a 9, those are going to be toes that are completely curled over one another. And if we move to the opposite end of the scale, that's going to be an animal that is divergent in their claw set. That ideal foot angle is going to be an animal that has a 45-degree angle from the pastern to the ground, as well as adequate amount of heel set in that foot. When we talk about an animal that has a 9 on foot angle, that's going to be one that has a lot of angle, has very little heel set on the back and fairly long toes. And when we go to the other side of the scale, a 1 is going to be an animal that is completely straight through that pattern, which then runs up into their shoulder. So when we talk about the appropriate time to foot score these animals, the earliest age we can foot score these animals are when these animals reach a year age. But the issue with our yearling age cattle is sometimes we don't see a lot of differences or a lot of variation in those foot scores. And so we really encourage our members and our Angus producers to basically collect those scores as those animals mature. Normally, as those animals reach 2, 3, 4 years of age, we see a lot more differences or expression and variation in foot structure in those animals, and those are really important scores to capture so we really can get the full breadth of the scoring system basically back into the database at the American Angus Association. With that, some things to keep in mind when we're scoring these animals. If for some reason you have to trim a foot on an individual animal, we don't want to score those animals after we've trimmed those hooves. We want to make sure that we're really capturing the scores on the natural claw set and foot angle of our individual animals, and we're not trying to find the animals that we can make into a 5 through hoof trimmings. Make sure that we're scoring the worst foot. So as you enter that pen, quickly examine all 4 feet, understand and pinpoint the worst foot on that individual animal, and only score the worst foot for both foot angle and claw set on the animal at hand. You should make sure that you score your feet on a hard surface, on a surface where that animal can stand in its natural position. At some point in time, if there's a cement pad that perhaps they can get out on, if they're in a loafing pen before you run them through the chute, something like that really increases our ability to capture accurate scores. So currently we have about 55,000 scores when we talk about foot angle and claw set that have been sent into the association, but only about 34,000 of those scores actually make it into the genetic evaluation to predict foot angle and claw set EPDs. And there's a couple of reasons why. When we look at those EPDs, they're only including scores in the top half of the scale, so 5 through 9 scores. And the reason for that is we don't see enough variation or basically differences in the scores that are collected in the 1, 2, 3, or 4 categories in order to really generate a statistical analysis and predict an EPD for the bottom side of the scale. A lot of people ask me, well, if you're not using the 1 through 4 scores, should I report them to the association? And the answer to that question is absolutely. Once we have enough data on the bottom side of the score to create an EPD, we'll definitely take that next step. Now, for the scores and the EPDs that are currently available, the other thing we have to remember is with any EPD, we need to make sure that we have variation in those phenotypes that come into the association. So the one thing you need to remember is that if you're scoring your yearling age cattle and they haven't expressed any differences in foot conformation up until this point, and they score all 5s, sending in all 5s on a large contemporary group of individuals really isn't going to help us and allow us to use those scores in the genetic evaluation. So once we get the data into the association, we start running those scores through the genetic evaluation. Really the end product or the end result are going to be those 2 foot score EPDs, foot angle and claw set. Let's say we have 2 bulls. We have sire A, who has a claw set EPD of 1.17, and sire B, who has a claw set EPD of 0.17. The difference between those 2 scores is 1, right? And so if we had a group of individual animals and we bred a group of individual animals to sire A and then subsequently bred those same individuals to sire B in the next year, we would expect those resulting progeny out of sire B to score a full score better on that 5 through 9 scoring scale, because on average we're going to move those scores up 1 unit. So it's really all based on the differences that we're seeing in those EPDs. And remember, we always want to work down or have a more negative or smaller EPD would be more desirable for these 2 traits. Another thing to remember are that these 2 foot score EPDs are actually included in your new $M or maternal weaned calf value index that predicts profitability basically from the time that animal is bred to the time she weans off her calf. The reason they're included is because if we have foot scores that are getting progressively worse in our herd, especially at earlier ages, we then increase her chance of getting pulled out of the herd at an earlier age. And the one important thing to remember is that if you're not reporting data and your animals aren't closely related to the data that's being reported, your foot score EPDs are going to hover around breed average. And if those EPDs are hovering around breed average, you're not actually re-ranking your animals on $M because of the change in the foot score EPDs. If everything comes in and all of your EPDs are right around 0.5, it really doesn't matter what trait emphasis is placed on those foot score EPDs in the $M index, because you're not going to spread or re-rank your animals on $M due to all of your animals having an average foot score EPD. The association in Angus's genetic evaluation relies heavily on you all as members to submit accurate data recording and performance measures, and the foot score EPDs are really no exception. We want to thank you all as members for stepping up to the plate, getting this data recorded and getting it sent into the association, because it's really you who make all these things possible. And we hope this collaboration continues, because together we can make these foot score EPDs, both foot angle and claw set, better and better.
So, to recap, the foot scoring guidelines are available in the Canadian Angus Trait Scoring Guidelines, and the guidelines are available on our website. If you need a printed copy, please contact the association. You'll want to collect the scores on a hard surface where you can see the feet clearly on untrimmed animals at yearling weight time, and then subsequently when you take mature cow weights. You should have the same person score the entire group of animals for consistency within the group. And ensure you're submitting scores on the entire group, the good ones and the bad ones. Groups without any deviation can't be used in the genetic evaluation. Claw set and foot angle scores can be submitted on your Canadian Angus worksheets. So can we actually use EPDs for claw set and foot angle to make improvements on these traits? Yes, the traits are both heritable or influenced by genetics. This means that 25% of the variation that you see in feet structure is influenced by genetics. You can use the EPDs to identify breeding cattle that have the genetic potential to contribute towards improved claw set and foot angle. So how would you use the EPDs? In this example, Bull A has a claw set EPD of 1.5 and Bull B has a claw set EPD of 0.5. The difference is 1 score. If you use the two bulls on the same cow herd, kept their daughters, and raised them in the same environment, the daughters of Bull B will have better claw set by 1 score, closer to 5, than the daughters of Bull A on average. Some questions that we've received about the claw set and foot angle EPD that we thought we'd share with you. Are the claw set EPD and the foot angle EPD included in the new Canadian Balanced Index? Yes, they are. The Canadian Balanced Index is balanced for both maternal and terminal traits, and they sure include these two foot EPDs. Another question we've received several times is, can I score the same animal twice? Yes, these two traits can contribute to cow longevity, which is a large economic impact on the commercial Angus producer. To learn more about how these traits change with time, we ask members to score animals at yearling and then subsequently every year when you take mature cow weights. Thanks very much for submitting your traits and listening to this video.